Someone disrespected you this week. Maybe it was open. A comment across the table, said with a smile so you couldn't object. Maybe it was quiet. A message ignored. Your idea repeated by someone else and suddenly brilliant. And you're still thinking about it, which means it worked. Epictetus, born a slave, beaten, owned, said this: "Remember that it is not he who reviles you or strikes you, who insults you, but it is your opinion about these things as being insulting." The man with the least power in Rome decided that insult itself was something he had to sign for, and he refused to sign. Here's what nobody tells you about disrespect. It's a transaction. Someone offers you a lower position, and the transaction only completes when you accept it. Your anger is the signature. Your explanation is the signature. Even your hurt silence, the kind that sulks and hopes they notice, is the signature. The Stoics built something better than a comeback. They built a protocol, 5 moves that don't depend on your mood, your quickness, or how much sleep you got. If you've ever replayed an insult at 2 in the morning, rehearsing what you should have said, this video is for you. 5 moves. The 5th one is the one they never see coming. If you're new here, this channel turns Stoic philosophy into field protocols you can run the same day. If that's useful, subscribe and tell me in the comments, what's the disrespect you still replay? Someone in this comment section has survived worse than yours. The pressure. Disrespect hurts more than it should. You know this. A stranger's insult can ruin a day that $1,000 couldn't fix. Why? Because disrespect isn't information about you. It's a bid for position. Every act of disrespect, the interruption, the joke at your expense, the slow reply from someone who answers everyone else instantly, is a test of where you rank and what you'll tolerate. Your nervous system knows this. That's why it reacts like you're in danger, even when the only thing under attack is a story about yourself. And so you do what the untrained do. You defend, you explain, you match energy, you fire back and hand them proof they got in, or you swallow it and it metastasizes into resentment that leaks out sideways for a week. Both responses lose, and they lose for the same reason. Both let the other person set the terms. They act, you react. They write the scene, you perform it. The moment you're reacting, you're an actor in their play, and nobody respects an actor they can direct at will. Marcus Aurelius commanded the most powerful empire on earth. He was surrounded by flatterers, schemers, and men who smiled at him while sharpening knives. He had every one of them executed. No, he didn't. That's the point. He wrote notes to himself at night in an army camp about how to face them without becoming them. The most powerful man alive trained for disrespect like a soldier trains for ambush. You've been treating disrespect like weather. The Stoics treated it like combat. Combat has protocols. The Stoic Rule. Here it is, and it comes straight from a slave who out-owned his masters. Nothing anyone says has the power to insult you. Only your judgment about it does. Words reach your ears. The insult is manufactured after arrival. By you. This sounds like philosophy until you test it. A toddler calls you an idiot? Nothing. A stranger in traffic? Almost nothing. The same word from your father, your boss, the person you're dating. A knife. Same word, different wound. So the wound was never in the word. It was in the weight you assigned to the speaker and the story you attached to the sentence. Seneca, the richest man in Rome, working for an emperor who eventually ordered him to die, watched Cato get spat on in public. His verdict: the wise man is safe and no injury or insult can touch him. Not endures it, untouched, because the wise man never signs the transaction. Understand what the rule is not. It is not pretending it didn't happen. It is not becoming a doormat with a philosophy degree. The Stoics were consuls, generals, emperors, men who held boundaries with armies. The rule is about sequence. Judgment first, response second. The untrained feel first and think never. The Stoic sees the bid, names it, and then chooses a response from standard instead of from sting. That's the rule. But there's a trap on the way to using it, and most people who try Stoicism fall straight into it. The hidden trap. The trap is performed indifference. You learn a little Stoicism, someone disrespects you, and you announce, with a tight jaw and a straining smile, that you're not bothered. That's not indifference. That's a performance of indifference, and everyone in the room can smell the difference. Performed calm is the most obvious wound of all. Real indifference doesn't need witnesses. Seneca warned that anger delayed doesn't always die. Sometimes it just goes underground and becomes vengeance with a spreadsheet. If you're keeping score, you're still in the transaction. If you're unbothered at someone, you're bothered. There's a test. Performed indifference checks whether it's working, glancing to see if they noticed how calm you are. Real indifference forgets to check. One is aimed at them. The other is aimed at you. The 5 moves that follow build the real thing. Not a mask of calm, an actual renegotiation of what gets access to your nervous system. Move 1 starts in the only place a Stoic ever starts, the 6 seconds after impact. The field protocol. Move 1. Kill the first sentence. Seneca wrote 3 entire books on anger, and his core finding fits in one line. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Not suppression, not venting. Delay because anger, examined, expires. Here's the mechanics. Disrespect lands. Within a second, your body spikes. Heat, tightness, the surge that wants to speak, and your mind hands you a sentence. The perfect retaliation, the wounded objection, the sarcastic reply. That first sentence is written by the spike, and the spike is on their side. The first sentence is always the signature on the transaction. So the move is brutally specific. The first sentence in your head does not get spoken. Ever. Not improved, deleted. Breathe out slowly once. Exhale, not inhale. The exhale is what down-regulates the spike. And let the sentence die. 6 seconds. That's the whole move. What happens in those 6 seconds is everything. The person who disrespected you is waiting. They made a bid, and bids need answers. 6 seconds of your calm silence is an answer they didn't script. Watch their face during it. The smirk needs your reaction to survive. Starved for 6 seconds, it starts to flicker. You haven't decided anything yet. You haven't forgiven, conceded, or retreated. You've simply refused to let their timing control your mouth. In the field, this looks like nothing. A pause, a slow breath, a level gaze. That's why it works. Nothing is the one response that can't be used against you. And when the disrespect arrives in writing, the curt email, the public comment, the text that reads like a slap, the same move stretches. The reply you draft in the first 10 minutes is the first sentence, just typed. Let it sit, an hour minimum. Overnight if the stakes are real. No message that raised your pulse gets answered while your pulse is still raised. The inbox rewards the calm sender every single time. Practice it on small insults first. Traffic, rude cashiers, a snippy email. You're building a gap between impact and speech. And that gap is where every other move in this protocol lives. Because once the sentence is dead and the spike is fading, you have 6 seconds of clarity to run move 2. And move 2 is where the insult itself gets dismantled. Move 2. Audit the event. Epictetus again. The rule is his. It's your opinion about the thing, not the thing. Move 2 turns that from philosophy into an audit you can run in real time. 2 questions. Question 1, what actually happened? Strip it to what a camera would record. He said my plan wouldn't work, in front of 4 people. She read the message and didn't reply. No adjectives, no motive, just footage. Question 2, what am I adding? This is where you catch the story doing the damage. He thinks I'm stupid. She's punishing me. Everyone in that room lost respect for me. This always happens to me. None of that is footage. All of that is you, wounding yourself on their behalf, doing their work for free. Run the split and something embarrassing becomes visible. The event is usually small. A sentence, a silence, 10 seconds of another person's behavior. A person who is tired, threatened, insecure, or simply careless. The suffering came almost entirely from the second column. Seneca caught this pattern in his letters. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. He wrote that about fear, but disrespect runs the same exploit. A small real event, inflated by imagination into a verdict about your worth. And here's the deeper cut. When you add, he thinks I'm stupid, even if he does, you've made his private opinion into your problem. Epictetus would ask, is his opinion in your control? No? Then it belongs to the same category as rain. You don't argue with rain, you wear a coat. One more cut the Stoics make here, and it isn't softness. Marcus reminded himself that people err through ignorance. Most disrespect is not a campaign against you. It's carelessness, distraction, someone's bad week rolling downhill. Reading it charitably isn't naive. It's accurate more often than your wounded story is. And accuracy keeps you from burning a relationship over what was never aimed at you. The audit gives the benefit of the doubt not as a gift to them, as armor for you. The audit takes 10 seconds once trained. Footage, additions, cross out the additions. What's left is almost always something you can handle without raising your voice, which is exactly what Move 3 is designed to produce, the response itself. Move 3. Respond from standard, not from sting. Marcus Aurelius, Book 6 of his private notes. The best way of avenging thyself is not to become like the wrongdoer. Rated as an operator, not a poet, he's saying revenge has a hidden cost. To retaliate in kind, you must first become the kind of person who does that. And that's the one casualty you can't afford. They were rude. You got louder. Now there are two rude people, and observers can no longer tell who started it. You paid for that outcome with your standard. So move 3. Your response is selected from a menu you wrote in peacetime, never composed in the moment. The Stoic menu for disrespect has 3 options. Option 1, the level question. What did you mean by that? Flat tone, direct eyes, zero heat. Casual disrespect collapses under this, because the joke only works while it's deniable. You've made them own the sentence in front of witnesses without accusing them of anything. Option 2, the named boundary. 1 sentence, no negotiation. Don't talk to me like that. Then, this is the discipline, stop. No lecture, no case file of their past offenses. The boundary derives its power from its shortness. Every extra sentence you add converts strength back into pleading. Option 3, the deliberate nothing. Not frozen silence, chosen silence, eye contact, a beat, and a return to what you were doing, as if their bid was a fly near a lion. Reserve this for bids so far beneath you that any response would promote them. One of these 3, chosen calm, delivered once, never escalated. If they push again, you repeat the boundary. Same words, same tone. Repetition without escalation is terrifying to a provoker. It signals a person running a system, not a mood. Now the hard case. What if the disrespect comes from above? A boss, a client, someone holding leverage. The menu holds, the weighting shifts. The level question still works upward, because it's respectful on its surface and lethal underneath. The name boundary moves to private, same single sentence, delivered one-on-one. Calm, I'm good with hard feedback. Deliver it straight, without the shots. And the deliberate nothing gains a partner. Excellence. Nothing defends you from a superior's disrespect like work they can't argue with. The Stoics served emperors. Seneca survived Nero for years. They knew you don't win upward with confrontation. You win with composure they come to rely on. But all these options share a vulnerability. They're live responses under fire. Wouldn't it be better if the fire found you already braced? That's move 4, and it's the one the Stoics considered non-negotiable. Move 4, the morning preload. Marcus Aurelius began his private notes with the strangest morning routine in history. Begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial. Every morning, the Emperor of Rome, briefing himself before contact. Today I will meet difficult people, not because he was a pessimist, because he was a commander. Soldiers don't discover the ambush during the ambush. They rehearse it so that when it comes, it's not an emergency. It's an expected event with a known response. Disrespect wounds you in proportion to how much it surprises you. Walk into the day assuming everyone will honor your worth, and every slight is a betrayal. An emergency your nervous system must handle live. Walk in having already accepted that somewhere today, someone will be careless, dismissive, or rude, and the same slight lands as confirmation. Ah, there it is. As briefed, the preload takes 30 seconds. Before the phone, before the inbox, name the likely contact points. The meeting where he interrupts, the chat where she reads and doesn't answer, the customer, the relative, the driver. Say it plainly. Some of them will disrespect me today. That's their tax on being who they are. I've already decided who I am. This is not cynicism. Marcus follows that brutal opening with the reason. These people err because they don't know better. And you're not entitled to be surprised by human nature. Expecting flawed people isn't dark, it's accurate. And accuracy is armor. Nothing ambushes the man who already walked the ground. The preload has an evening twin. Seneca ended his days in review, putting the day on trial, examining every reaction before sleep. 30 seconds again. Where did disrespect land today? And did the protocol run? No self-punishment, a debrief. The morning briefs the mission, the evening grades the rep. Between the two, the day gets bracketed by command. Run the preload for 1 week, and you'll notice the strangest effect. Disrespect starts arriving in slow motion. You see the bid forming before it's spoken, and a bid you saw coming has almost no power, which sets up the final move. Because there's one thing disrespect cannot survive, and move 5 takes it away. Move 5, withdraw the audience. Every act of disrespect is a performance, and a performance needs an audience. Your reaction is the applause. Your hurt is the review. Your continued full presence, pretending nothing happened, is a season renewal. Move 5 cancels the show, not dramatically. Withdrawal announced is just another performance. Notice me leaving is still notice me. The Stoic version is quiet recalibration of access. The colleague who uses you for target practice gets shorter answers, fewer openings, less of your attention, pleasant, professional, and somehow never available for the scene they want to play. The friend who only respects you when convenient finds your energy redirected to people who don't need reminding. No speech, no ultimatum. Access simply adjusts to match behavior. Seneca's line about Cato wasn't abstract. The wise man is safe, and no injury or insult can touch him. Safe, because untouchable isn't a feeling, it's a structure. You build it by placing your worth where their behavior can't reach it, and by making your presence a privilege that behavior determines. Epictetus pushed it to the root. The quote Admiral James Stockdale carried into a Hanoi prison cell. A man's master is he who is able to confer or remove whatever that man seeks or shuns. Whoever controls what you crave, controls you. If you crave their respect, the disrespecter owns you. They can price their approval however they like, and you'll keep paying. Stop needing the respect of people who trade in disrespect, and their entire currency collapses. Understand the distinction, because it's the difference between power and sulking. You're not punishing them. Punishment is still attention. Sulking is still audience. You're reallocating a finite resource, your presence, toward where it's respected, the way capital flows away from bad investments. Nothing personal, pure portfolio management. And for the people you can't withdraw from, family at the table, the coworker 3 feet away, the move still runs, scaled. You can't remove presence. You can shrink surface area. Fewer personal disclosures for them to handle carelessly. Shorter engagements on the topics they weaponize. Full courtesy, reduced exposure. Withdrawal was never about distance in feet. It's about what you leave within reach. And here is what actually happens, more often than not. They notice. Not because you perform the withdrawal, because the room feels different when your full attention leaves it. Some of them correct. Respect returns sincerely because it's no longer free to withhold. And if they never notice, then their respect was never coming, and you've stopped paying for a product that was never going to ship. 5 moves. Now let's watch them run together. The protocol in the field. Tuesday, team meeting, 6 people. You finish presenting and Marcus from sales says, smiling at the room, well, that's one way to do it if we don't care about results. Impact. The spike hits and your first sentence arrives on cue. At least mine's an actual plan. Move 1. The sentence dies. 1 slow exhale. 6 seconds. The room is watching him wait for your reaction. It doesn't come. Move 2. Silent, mid-pause. Footage. He questioned the plan's results sarcastically in front of 5 people. Additions. He's trying to humiliate me. Everyone agrees with him. I look weak. Crossed out. What remains? 1 sarcastic sentence from a man who's been sharp with everyone since the reorg rumors. Move 3. From the menu, the level question, what part of it won't get results? Flat, direct eyes. Now the sarcasm has to convert into specifics in front of witnesses. Or fold. He shrugs. Just seems ambitious. The smirk dies of exposure, not combat. It is. Walk through the numbers after, if you want. Meeting moves on. You never raise your voice, and everyone in that room felt the rankings settle in your favor. Move 4 already ran 7 hours earlier. With your coffee, someone will test me today. Probably in the meeting. That's why the spike had no ambush power. You'd already walked the ground. Move 5 runs across the following weeks. Marcus gets professional courtesy, full stop. The extra help he used to enjoy, the first look at your ideas, your ear at lunch, quietly reallocated to colleagues who never needed a protocol. 3 weeks later, he's noticeably more careful with you. No confrontation ever happened. The show closed for lack of audience. That's the protocol. Not one heroic comeback. 5 small systems, each unremarkable, together untouchable. Why it works. Every move attacks the same load-bearing wall from a different side. Disrespect requires your participation to function. The pause starves it of the reaction that completes it. The audit deletes the imaginary component, which is most of it. Responding from standard removes its power to make you into its mirror. The preload removes surprise, which is where most of its voltage lives. Withdrawal removes the audience that makes performing it worthwhile. Notice what none of the moves require. The other person changing. That's the entire engineering principle. Every strategy that depends on them, winning the argument, extracting the apology, making them see, hands your outcome to the one variable you can't control. Epictetus opens the Enchiridion with the only division that matters. Of things some are in our power and others are not. Their mouth, not in your power. Your judgment, your pause, your menu, your morning, your access, entirely in your power. The protocol wins because it's built exclusively out of things you control. It cannot be counterplayed because there's nothing on their side of the board. And there's a second-order effect the Stoics understood and modern psychology keeps rediscovering. Composure is read as status. The person who cannot be baited registers to every observer as the one holding rank, which means the protocol doesn't just neutralize disrespect. It quietly converts each attempt into a demonstration of exactly the quality disrespect tried to deny. The field test. This week, Not someday. Disrespect will find you. It always does. When it lands, run the audit. 1. What did they actually do? Footage only. 2. What did I add? 3. Did the first sentence die unspoken? 4. Which menu option fits? Question, boundary, or nothing? 5. Did I preload this morning? 6. What access does their behavior now earn? 7. Tonight. Did I respond from standard or perform indifference while keeping score? Run all 7 once and disrespect stops being a wound. It becomes a rep. The command gained. Untrained disrespect could ruin your week from a stranger's mouth. Trained, it's an expected event with a known response. Slower to spike, harder to bait, immune to the joke with a smile on it. The person whose calm makes provokers look unstable, and whose access, once lost, is the only punishment anyone remembers. They can say what they like. The insult needs your signature, and you've stopped signing. Disrespect dies in silence. Drop that line in the comments if you're taking the protocol into the week, and tell me which move you're running first. If this sharpened you, the next video to watch is, the less you react, the more power you have. The reaction protocol this one is built on. It's on screen now. This is the Stoic Field Manual. Ancient wisdom, modern pressure, calm command.